that these tasks are not important. It's that I do not support the external spend for us doing something that we have so many people within our community who are already passionate about providing assistance and their ideas to support.
Okay, so I want to move on off of that topic and ask about city staff. And Kent, I'd like you to take this first. Tell us, if you would, sort of your view overall of the quality of service provided by city staff with respect to economic development, both in terms of sort of competence, preparedness, friendly and open, and in particular the staff's role of putting together the e-packets, having information available to the public, communicating with the developers. What is your sense? And I know there are some changes in the process right now that you feel free to talk to, but what is your sense overall of the quality of the staff work from the city, particularly as it pertains to economic development projects?
Yeah, so I'm going to change economic development projects to basically just keep it what it really is, and that's applicants that come to the city of Delafield that have interest in building something. I mean, that's how it's treated, that's how it is. And I described that a little bit before. I mean, it starts with the city planner, right? And then from there, it goes to a staff meeting. And the people I mentioned before participate in that staff meeting. And we try to give the applicant very candid feedback, right? It's when they absolutely have the right to propose whatever they want. We just want them to understand the challenges that they'll be facing. Sometimes it's a long list and a difficult list, and sometimes it's a very short list and an easy list. How that process works, I mean, it's just not complicated. I mean, there's a city planner, which you alluded to. We've made some changes there to improve the performance in that role by combining it as a resource coming out of SEH, which is our city engineer. So basically, instead of a planner that operates relatively independently with no resources around them, prior to Roger being an independent contractor, we were combined under SEH. That's basically the direction we headed back to. I think things work smoother under that way, under one umbrella, one roof, and the resources that SEH has. When we have particular subjects and they need expertise, they can reach out to somebody that works with a company in Madison or in a different state. They have those resources where the way we were set up previously, they didn't. So I think I know that process is going to improve, and I hope I'm answering your question, but the communication is definitely going to improve, in that all the information will be coming to one place, going to one city clerk, who will be putting it together. Before, there were 2 or 3 people involved in that. Now it's going to be more streamlined.
And just as a follow-up, Kent, what about the timing on putting this stuff together? Do you feel like sometimes these e-packets are 600 pages long?
Sure.
And they show up on the website on Monday before a Wednesday meeting. Is that necessary, and is that conducive to quality review?
Yeah, I think it is, and we spend a lot of time looking at this, right? So we have a planning commission meeting once a month, right? Basically, the applicant has until 2 weeks before that meeting to provide all the information that they want to have included in that packet. So their deadline is 2 weeks before the actual meeting date. Then the city engineer has to review all that information, provide feedback, and sometimes it's a relatively short list, but in some cases, as with the last Hendricks one, it was 63 items they had concerns about. So that 1-2 weeks, depending upon how big the project is really needed to be able to do that before the meeting. Oh, and by the way, we have to publish the packet, rightfully so. We try to get it out for sure the Friday before the Wednesday meeting, right? So that really only leaves 7 or 8 days for staff to do their reviews of the information. Law says we only have to get it out 24 hours in advance. And we've done that in the past, where we've kind of dropped it on citizens like that. And I mandated a rule that needed to be out on Friday. And if something drastic happened or changed it, then we would send a revision. But the due date is Friday, so the citizens have an opportunity to review that information.
Sandra, your thoughts on the city staff?
Yep, I mean, I think that as far as the city planner goes, I mean, I do understand that there were some challenges with with the city planner, and that's why we have made some changes in who we're using. So I would not be able to comment on the competency of the new person taking this role because I do not know them nor understand what their past is. However, I do think that we have had a gap in our city staff with economic development. I think that we see this as a transactional role and something that we have something come across, we have to make a checklist, I've looked at this, and then we move it forward. It's not seen as a responsibility. So we need to make sure that whoever is coming into this role understands that the city values the investors and the development that is a potential for our community, and we need to make sure that this is not just a transactional activity that they are doing and checking the boxes. So I think that that is an expectation versus and it is possibly a gap. As far as our staff goes, I think that we're short-staffed. We have not had there's 3 clerks within our city. Clerk 3 has vacated last November, and so the other staff in this office have been running at a deficit. And so they're trying to do the best that they possibly can to kind of keep up with the work that is there. We're going through elections right now, so I think that we have to be understanding as citizens that this is not an easy role that some of these people have. They have so much to manage and not a lot of help. And so I think that looking at roles and responsibilities that we have within our organization, also looking at how in the short term we need to restructure and split those tasks up. I think that as we look at our budget, we keep talking about whether we need to downsize. I'm not sure that the city can afford to downsize at this point. I think that we have a lot of in-house knowledge, and we have lost a lot of in-house knowledge recently with our finance resource just retiring at the beginning of this month. And so we really need to look at what it is that we need to provide service-wise, and how do we take the people from across the city and across these different departments. Even looking at DPW and our police department, how can they help fill some of these gaps in the short term to make sure that we don't lose any more of this knowledge as we're looking at our budget for next year. So I think that really looking at roles and responsibilities, who's doing what needs to be done, what is a must-have versus a nice-to-have, are all things that we need to look at in the next few months and make sure that we are putting our effort and attention on the right things.
So the other big sort of election, I guess not election, but the other big thing on the ballot, at least for the CAM school district, at the same time as the mayoral election, is the CAM school referendum. And there's been a lot of discussion around school funding. I think it's pretty clear that at least part of the equation on the school funding issues is a function of declining enrollment in the district. My question, and Sandra, maybe you can start, is part of the problem with enrollment affordability of housing in the city of Delafield for younger families? And as you answer that and talk about whether that's a problem that we should be trying to address, share your views on whether perhaps smaller lot sizes might be part of the solution to that issue.
Yeah, I do think that affordability is one of the issues that we are struggling with enrollment. I think one of the other issues that we have is that, we are a small town in a group of small towns. And so people look at Delafield and they like what we have to offer and they like our downtown. But they can easily take advantage of what Delafield has by living in a cheaper community just 10 minutes away. And so I think that we are seeing a lot of developments going up in some of our neighboring communities that are more appealing to some of the younger family groups. And so that's why we're seeing some of those tax dollars and those that tax dollars for both our community and also for the schools going into some of the other areas. So I do think that that's something that we need to be looking at and thinking about how do we attract younger generations. I personally, when we moved here, one of the reasons that we selected our lot was that we wanted a large lot, so we bought a 3-acre lot. I fully understand that that is not what the people who are 10 years younger than me are going to be looking for. And so I know that it's going to be probably pretty difficult for me to be selling my house in the future. And I think that that's something we need to be thinking of for all of our residents. I mean, we have 2-acre lots, a lot of 2-acre lots, and even more throughout our community. And how do we make our housing more diverse and more attractive to a group of different people versus just targeting one particular group? And so that is definitely something we need to be looking at.
So just, I mean, would you support